Hello.
Hello, please.
Yeah, what's the problem, sir?
We just drove down our farm track.
Yeah.
Go and feed our pheasants. We come across a Range Rover with 3 people in it.
Yeah.
It appears that they're dead. I don't know what's happening. Blood in the motor all over them.
And in this video, we're going to take a look at a double murder from December 1989. It is there in Epping Forest, Essex, that Maxine Arnold and Terry Gooderham were both executed whilst in Terry's car with a 12-bore shotgun. No DNA, no footprints and no tyre tracks were recovered from the crime scene. We will then draw some parallels between this case and the deaths of Tucker Tate and Rolfe in Rettendon in 1995. Firstly, let's start with a newspaper article from the Mirror. Gangland-style execution of lovers linked to underworld and corrupt police 30 years on. The Mirror can reveal for the first time how the clinical slaying of Terry Gooderham and Maxine Arnold may have been covered up by corrupt cops to protect gangland figures. The executions of a couple shot dead in a lover's lane have been linked to associates of the underworld we can reveal on the 30th anniversary of the unsolved murders. Terry Gooderham, 39, and Maxine Arnold, 32, were found in a car on December the 23rd, 1989 in Epping Forest, East London. Police believe they were kidnapped from Arnold's home and Gooderham forced to drive his Mercedes to the spot where they were shot in the back of the head with a 12-bore shotgun. Scotland Yard had the name of 4 gangland figures within days of the killings, but internal reports suggest corrupt police were protecting the suspects. A whistleblowing detective has now come forward to claim there was a missed opportunity to make early arrests. The now retired detective, who asked to remain anonymous, said, "They knew who did it from the beginning. When we heard about the double murder in the first week of January 1990, he met a reliable criminal informant from the East London underworld. The informant, said pub trade stocktaker Gooderham, was killed because he knew too much about a scam involving gangsters using menace to take control of London pubs. The informant said Gooderham was nervous about his involvement in the pub scam and on the verge of going to the police when he was killed." The whistleblower told the Mirror, quote, "The informant was scared stiff. It took 3 hours to get this out of him." He wrote what the informant said in an official log, including a claim that one of the suspects had corrupt police contacts. The whistleblower said, quote, "It was a name bandied around a lot, and always that there was corruption linked to him. I made sure the right people knew, and I was content it had reached the murder squad." But days later, a senior Met officer told him the informant had retracted all his claims. The whistleblower said, quote, "I was surprised. It didn't add up." The Mirror showed the whistleblower a police report dated May the 14th, 1990, which corroborated the intelligence his informant had provided. The whistleblower said he was shocked and would name the allegedly corrupt senior officer if there was now a proper inquiry. Retired Detective Chief Superintendent Albert Patrick carried out a cold case review in 2012. He confirmed that the same 3 suspects were in the frame for the killing, and a 4th suspect who allegedly drove the getaway car was a member of a notorious London crime family. The latest revelations have angered members of insurance clerk Maxine Arnold's family. Police accept Maxine was in the wrong place at the wrong time. A relative who asked not to be named said, quote, "Her murder destroyed her mother, who never got over it until the day she passed away. We want justice for Maxine. If the people who killed her are still alive, then the police should have another look into this." A Scotland Yard spokesman said, quote, "No unsolved murder case is ever closed." The following article, which I found online, talks in a little bit more detail regarding the life of Maxine Arnold and Terry Gooderham, and also goes into more detail regarding the night of their murders. Maxine McNamara was born in 1957. In the early 70s, she knew my old colleague before they both got married. Maxine married Jonathan Arnold in 1979. This, however, would be a short marriage, as by 1982, she was dating businessman Terry Goodaham. Terry was sort of a playboy. He would spend half the week with Maxine and the second half of his other girlfriend. However, it has been said that both women knew of each other's existence. The night of the 22nd of December 1989 would start off as any normal night. Maxine was on the phone getting ready to go out with Terry, and investigation points to the fact that they had left the flat that they shared in a hurry shortly after this phone call. They didn't take any items of value with them, and clothing was laid out on the bed as if Maxine was picking an outfit. Sometime on the 22nd of December, they parked up at Epping Forest in Terry's Mercedes. It is there that the couple were both shot dead. In 2010, the Mirror tried to say that a local crime lord was involved, but I don't believe he was ever trialed or even questioned by police regarding the double murder. The second theory indicates that Terry himself was in serious trouble with the organised crime gangs of that time. He had also been trying to gain business with the lucrative Spanish ice cream market. Another theory is that a hitman was used, as there was no DNA or any type of tracks or evidence to point to any leads, which makes it seem as though the murder was carried out by a professional. Although one article I found said about drugs, I believe it also stated that neither Maxine or Terry had any drugs on them or in their system at the time of their deaths. Okay, now for some of you, or I should say the majority of you who won't be familiar with Epping Forest or where that's located or what it looks like, I'll give you a brief bit of history. Epping Forest is a 5,900 acre area of ancient woodland which stretches between Essex and London. The two people who were murdered in Epping Forest were actually found in a lover's lane. They were driving a white Mercedes, and what is interesting about this case, and where you can draw some comparisons between this case and the deaths of Tucker, Tate and Rolfe, is how this crime was committed. A 12-bore shotgun was used. There was no DNA, no footprints or any tyre tracks found entering or exiting the crime scene. You can also draw some comparisons with Terry Goodaham and the sort of work he was involved in. Albeit he was an accountant and stocktaker, there are rumours that he was involved in the pub and club security business to some degree. And most interestingly, it is widely believed that this hit or this murder was carried out by a hitman or a contract killer. Now, just to make it clear, I'm certainly not saying that whoever committed this crime killed Tucker, Tate and Rolfe. That isn't what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that you can draw some comparisons as to how this crime was committed. A lot of people simply don't want to subscribe to the idea that a hitman killed Tucker, Tate and Rolfe. They believe simply that it was Jack Holmes and Michael Steele, and they were both equally capable of committing this crime in the way it was carried out. But if we are so sure, looking at the deaths of Maxine Arnold and Terry Goodaham, that this was the work of a professional contract killer, how can we be so sure that a similar type of operative wasn't at work when Tucker, Tate and Rolfe met their demise in Rettendam? Both of these murders bear the same similar hallmarks. No DNA, no footprints, no tyre tracks, and a similar or same type of weapon used to commit the murders. Some further parallels can be drawn in the case of Maxine Arnold and Terry Goodaham in regards to people involved in the background of these murders. You have underworld figures mixing with corrupt officers. And what do we have in the Essex Boys case but Darren Nichols and his two corrupt contacts? Now, what I want you to actually think about here is the murders of Tucker, Tate and Rolfe, how they were committed, and whether you believe personally that Jack Wombs and Michael Steele were actually capable of committing that crime in such a ruthless, fast and efficient manner. But not only that, did they have the clarity of mind in order to commit the crime and then leave the crime scene without a trace, no evidence, no DNA evidence, no tyre tracks or footprints? Were those two individuals capable of having that clarity of mind in order to commit their first murder, not just of one person, but of three individuals, and then be able to have the clarity of mind to leave the scene without leaving any traces behind? That is what I find most interesting about the entire case, is that when you look at how it was committed, in my opinion, it's not that easy to walk up to a Range Rover in the pitch black, freezing cold evening, committing your first murder of not just one person, but three individuals, and then get away without leaving any sort of trace behind. No eyewitnesses, no one even hearing the shots. In my opinion, it has all the hallmarks of someone who was killed before. Now, does that mean that both Michael Steele and Jack Wombs are completely innocent of any involvement in this crime? Absolutely not. They may have had some sort of dealing in getting Tucker Tate and Rolfe to the lane. But I think there's a disparity here in those two individuals and exactly what they were capable of. And finally, there does appear to be some similarities in these two murders. As I said at the beginning of this video, I'm certainly not saying that the same person is responsible for both murders. But if people who investigate this case of Maxine Arnold and Terry Goodaham are so convinced that this was the work of a professional, then how can we be so sure that a professional didn't kill Tucker Tate and Rolfe? Whether you have a motive for murder or not does not change your capability to commit triple murder and get away from the scene without leaving any evidence. The parallels that you can draw between the case of Maxine Arnold and Terry Goodaham are that both of these murders occurred down a lover's lane, a secluded lane, albeit Epping Forest is a forest, but it was a secluded lane in which they were found, or at least a spot which was known to be frequented by lovers, doggers, or whatever you want to call them. No DNA, footprints, or tyre tracks were found at either crime scene. A shotgun was used in both murders. Terry Goodaham was also involved to some degree in the dealings with security for pubs and clubs in the Essex and London area. Hopefully you've enjoyed today's video. You should be able to see in front of you very shortly some other videos from the channel, and also the Essex Boys playlist, which has all of the videos regarding this case in one convenient folder. So do feel free to work your way through those. Many thanks for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you all again in the next video. Take care. Cheers.